Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. Episode
11.
11, season
Season
2. We're
of
doing
the Glow Show.
good. We're
We're
doing
doing
good.
wonderful.
We are so glad to be back. And today our topic is an interesting one. And of course, this topic came out, we were inspired, and you'll know why when I say that. Dismantling disagreements, a bold look through conflict, or growing boldly through conflict. So
You and I don't have conflict, so I mean, this is for the audience.
like
This is
I
for us.
said, we were inspired by this episode because we had conflict. How about
We're
that?
the perfect couple. We don't have conflict.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So today we're going to really look at what conflict is, how we handle conflict, and really just a model that we came up with to really work through conflict. And I'm excited to work through this. Like I say, this was inspired by our last and most recent conflict. And so we're going to be very open, honest, and transparent. Okay, so let's talk general first. When we think of conflict, I know you are a person who loves conflict. And when I say love conflict, you love to deal with it. You love to
I
handle
don't
it.
love to. I don't have a problem dealing with it.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So you don't have a problem
If I could
dealing with it.
avoid conflict, I will avoid it. But if it comes, I'm going to deal with it.
You're going to deal with it. And I was definitely, when we got married, the opposite. I ran from conflict. I didn't want to have to deal with it. If I can brush it under the rug and pray it disappear, I would have done that. So that's our conflict styles generally. And 10 years in, I think we have grown. First year, I thought this was the most annoying, rudest man, because why don't he leave me alone when I trying to just avoid the situation? And there was never an avoidance
And
of
that
conflict.
first year, I was thinking, oh my God, this lady can't deal with nothing. She just either run away or just shut down. And I'm like, no, you gotta work through these things.
Yeah. So I've grown, meaning growing in the sense of I tend to move towards it now. I still naturally want to avoid it, but I realize that he is not that person. And I've grown enough where I'm like, okay, listen, this is not going to go away. Let's at least have that conversation. So I've grown. Would you say that?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And he still loves conflict.
Are you saying that?
No, you still.
I still don't have a
But you
problem.
say you don't have a
with
problem
dealing
with
with
it.
conflict. I'm going to
So-
deal with the issue. I'm not going to dance around it. I'm going to deal with it because
Yeah.
I like harmony and unity. That's
Right.
I want to move past.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I've always liked harmony and unity too, but I want to ignore the situation so we can have harmony and unity.
Yeah. And I will deal with it so we can have harmony and unity.
So that's how we start this episode. So let's talk about, what would you say is the most important, most popular conflict that we've seen in marriage? Even maybe if we look at our own marriage, what has been the biggest area of conflict?
Most couples, and I would have done some research and stuff when preparing for other, usually finance, communication issues. When it comes to dealing with the children, those are the top ones. Yeah? Infidelity falls somewhere in there, but contrary to popular belief, infidelity is not the top conflict. Usually communication, finance.
Yeah. And communication as in we just don't understand or know how to talk to each other.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or misunderstanding.
yes.
Yeah, awesome. So when you think of if a conflict happens, and I know the answer for our marriage, and we've grown in this area too, but what is the average, what's the word I want to use? Timeline. What's the average time that a conflict lasts in a marriage? What would you say? We mad at each other. We ain't talking. How long that gonna last?
Well, I don't want to generalize. I want to speak specifically to us.
Okay.
Yeah, and then our audience could be honest with
And
themselves.
share in the comments.
And don't be afraid to speak your truth, because the whole point of this is to grow.
Yeah.
And so
For sure.
for us, we would go anywhere from 3 days. We have gone up to 3 weeks. We have gone up to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's mostly Glenn, anyone talk.
yeah. And
See?
that's mostly you avoiding. And no, we have gone up to 3 weeks on really, really hot.
And that's probably once, once or twice, not
No,
often.
it ain't no once. It ain't no.
No, twice.
It ain't no twice either.
3
But we have
weeks?
grown. Yes, we have gone up to, in the first part, remember the first part of our relationship? We were like
Okay, yes.
year
The
two,
first
year
part of our
three.
relationship,
Yeah, we have had,
and it was not
We have
me,
had-
it was Glenn. And Glenn not wanting to talk. Glenn is so stubborn, y'all. And he
it
just,
takes two, it takes two, man.
he was not
It takes
talking
two.
like, so, yeah, so anyway, from 3 days to 3 weeks. For me, again, I looked, how I handled, like, when we were at those disagreements, my thought process is I was easier to forgive. So my thought was, all right, let me just get over it, or let me just forgive very quickly so that we can get back to each other. That is not Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn don't care if I forgive him until he ready to come down off his, whatever you call it. There was no conversation, there was nothing. So a
And
lot
then,
of those
and then,
times.
and then for me, my perception is that you want to rush past it, and we haven't really resolved it, but we want to move on as if life is one big happy-go-lucky party. And I'm like, no, why are we moving on if we have not resolved the issue? You're saying, forgive you, but what am I forgiving you for what? And so we
Yeah.
had this dynamics of trying to figure out how do we deal with this. And I think a big part of it too was both of us stubborn. And both of us, even though you were more willing to come down, right? You still had some things about you in terms of the not taking the accountability. And I was always stuck there. I'm like, we're not getting past this because you're not taking accountability. And you were like, we're not getting past this because you're too impatient. But it was both of us.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it was both of us.
So we've gone through the whole gamut. I think of late though, we have done a really good job of coming together after the conflict and just getting through it, having those conversations.
We have really grown over the last 10, 11 years of being together. We have grown, and I say dealing with conflict. In fact, now we have conflict few and far between.
Yeah.
And when they do come up, we deal with them. So we don't have all that, I would say, toxic disagreement that we would have had in the past.
Yeah.
We do have disagreement because we're nowhere arriving, but we deal with it
We deal
much
with it,
more. And I think
yeah,
it comes
we've
with
grown.
maturity and learning each other over the years.
Yeah. And for me, it's for me to add to what you're saying, it's leaning into it. That's definitely an area where I would call you first to talk through something rather than waiting for you to be the one to bring it up. And so I think, yes, we both have grown in that area. And so when we think of conflict from a marriage standpoint, would you say is good? Would you say is bad? How would you classify it?
Well, I would always say conflict is good and bad. Good in the sense that you get to learn and you get to grow, just like how we have learned and grow over the years. Also, it could be bad if we do not deal with it or if it becomes toxic.
Yeah, yeah. I think how it's handled,
Yeah.
how the conflict is handled is what makes it worse. Because even when I think of our last conflict, and we'll dissect that, there was a conflict, there was a disagreement, I should say, and then the disagreement escalated to a conflict or a major conflict because how it was handled. It wasn't managed well.
Yeah.
And so I think it depends on just how that disagreement escalates.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the original disagreement.
Yeah.
And so, but I believe conflict in marriage is important because sometimes that just shakes the tree
Yeah.
and that opens opportunities for more learning, more growth, more in-depth connection with your partner. So I think it's a good thing if it's managed well.
Yeah. And a lot of the times it's just people throwing words out there and you're not realizing that words have impact and have
Yeah.
consequences. And also, when there is a disagreement, it is an opportunity for both parties to look within and accept their part in the disagreement
Yeah.
and how we can come together as a team. Because really and truly,
Yeah.
especially in our case, I told my brother the other day, we are better together than apart.
Yeah.
And so if we, and when we resolve our conflict, we get so much more done. And we, even in terms of teaching and all the things that we do, we create a better product when we are together. So it makes sense for us to
Yeah.
resolve the conflict.
Yeah. And sometimes conflict sharpens us.
Yeah.
Because even when we think of conflict, you mentioned teaching. We've had conflict in the way that we teach and how we work together there. I know we have an episode on when your spouse is your business partner, and that has sharpened the final product as well. So, definitely see it as a positive beyond what people tend to look at it as. And ironically, you say team because, we, in doing the work that we do in marriage ministry, we created this framework, this model. Of course, we're both trainers. Everything is a framework. If it's not a framework,
Because we're about
you can make
solution
it
and
into
we're
a
about
framework.
growing.
So we crafted out this framework called the Team Action Framework, which really looks at how do we handle conflict, how do we overcome any disagreements using the word team, right? With the mindset that the single biggest thing that we must remember if we have any type of disagreement or when that conflict escalates is that we are on the same team.
Yeah.
And that is not always easy.
It's not always easy.
Because when he make me mad, listen,
Yeah, this team is divided in two.
I don't care if we on the same team. I trying to get my point across.
Yeah.
But I think if there's nothing else you remember is how do we find a way that when we have this disagreement that we are all on the same team.
Yeah. So if you're of the mindset that, you know what, you want to be right, or this person always right, or this person always wrong, or if you're of the mindset that I have to win, then this framework is not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. So what I want us to do now is walk through the framework, the first two letters, and then of course you got to come back to the next episode to hear the other two. On what does this team framework look like, and then of course we're going to use ourselves as an example. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, T.
Like, you're becoming such a big girl. Like you have gotten so comfortable with owning your truth, and I'm just so proud of your growth.
Thank you.
No, seriously. It's like one time ago, this would have been me throwing you under the bus. Now you
No,
embrace it.
sometimes you still throw me under the bus sometimes.
Yeah.
Of course. I think I've learned to manage it well. But we've already this bus here, you've already thrown me under.
Bus turned into a truck.
So I've gotten over this bus that we're gonna talk about. Yeah, he threw me under this before, a couple of times, so I think I'm good. But maybe some new buses. I know he gonna throw me under some new buses in the future.
You're growing.
Oh Lord, okay. So T stands for talk with purpose.
Yeah.
Talk with purpose. And I'm going to read it because I want you to get the appreciation. So remember, your purpose is to win. No matter what the circumstances are, choose a scenario, whatever that issue is, whatever that disagreement is, whatever that obstacle is, choose a scenario, discuss it openly, and focus on expressing your thoughts and feelings honestly and constructively. And when you look at that, you want to facilitate open, honest, constructive communication. So that's T, right? Talk with purpose. We're not just talking. We're talking with the purpose to win, to overcome the agreement, to come up with a solution. Not just because we're talking because we want to hear ourselves, we want to, get our point across. What do you say about that?
Yeah. And one of the key thing is to deal with the subject, deal with the issue, deal with the thing that you're having a problem with, and not, because sometimes we get petty. And then we start with the name calling, and we start with the pointing the finger when we actually dealing with an issue. So for us, one of the things that Keisha and I argue over a lot over the last 10 years was dealing with finances. We were never on the same page with finances. And so I am the better person at dealing with finances. I am the saver. I am the one that's gonna properly plan things out and make sure things are in order. Keisha is more spontaneous. She is more, I don't want to use the word reckless with money. 'Cause
I
it
am
ain't
not more reckless
It ain't
with
reckless.
money.
It's more
Casual.
of the spender of the,
I'm the spender.
Yeah.
I'm the spender of the family.
Yeah.
I would own that.
and so she could get real loose with money, right? And so that have always been an issue. And so when we deal with that as a conflict, I always have to remember that we're dealing with the issue and not Keisha.
Yeah. I love that. And I love this. I see this here in my notes. Be specific about what you want to discuss to keep the conversation focused, and that's what you're talking about. Don't bring all the other issues in. Don't bring the other disagreement in, the other topic. Keep it to one issue. But you smile.
I smile because in my mind, like the other gender that is not a male, right, will be all over the place and have all kind of different issues going on. And one of the things that I would always say, well, why are you bringing all these multiple things into this one thing if we're talking about finance? Leave it to finance and deal with the other multiple things at a later time. Because when you bring it in and you compound it, we now start to feel attacked. We now start to feel as if the problem is me and not the issue, and then things start to get out of whack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk with purpose. Focus on one issue at a time. Use I statements, don't blame. Have that open, honest conversation with the mindset that we're talking to win, to get over this. Yes? E, you know what E is? Remember what E is?
Now you tell me. What is
E
it?
is empathize and understand, right? And so what does that mean? Put yourselves in the other person's shoe, your spouse, your partner, your friend. And so, because we're talking from a marriage context, but it's the other person. Really listen to what your partner is saying and try to understand their perspective. The objective here is to foster a deep understanding towards each other's perspective and feelings. Why are you smiling?
I'm smiling because this is the part where I get beat up. You do not listen. You don't listen to nothing I have to say. You never listen to me.
You ain't trying to understand
You
me.
don't understand me. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, and so it's if we look at the finance scenario, right? And even something you said, because I've also had to learn to put myself in your shoe, right? In my instance, I would always say you just, you so strict and you just so
Taskmaster.
hard and you so impatient and all of this stuff. But I've had to realize that going back to a previous episode, our upbringing meant that we handled money differently as well. So me understanding you, and let's put the last conflict into this pot, right? The last conflict was, what was the last conflict? We were talking about opening a joint account.
Yes.
I'm saying,
Y'all after 10 years, we ain't have a joint account.
no, we don't, okay?
Disgraceful.
That's a whole other episode, but I'm like, okay, let's open up a joint account. Maybe it's expecting some income. I'm going to open it up with some money in the account, and I want us both to sign. Child, Glenn was not having that. Tell him why.
I was like, I'm not going on an account with you if both of us to sign. I automatically took that as this lady money that she putting on this joint account. She is adding me to the account, and so now she want both of us to sign. Like for me, I automatically think that was a trust issue. All right?
I didn't trust you.
Right. And I'm
Which
like,
that don't make sense to me, but
so I'm like, no, if we're going to have an account together, a joint account, either one of us is going to be able to sign. Because, well, I didn't explain this then.
right.
To me, if you have a joint account and both persons to sign, it is the same thing as only one person on the account. Because if something happens to you, I would need your permission to sign, because the bank is not going to allow me to withdraw because both has to sign. If you're the only one on the account, the bank would not allow me to sign because I'm not on the account, so I would still need permission.
Yeah.
So that's how I was looking at it in my head. So to me, it was a trust issue.
Right. And you know, we're looking at the E step.
Yeah.
Put ourselves in each other's shoes. I didn't understand that perspective, and he didn't understand my perspective.
I didn't explain that perspective.
You didn't, right?
at first.
He explained that initially. So in my mind, I was like, you still at this point where 10 years
I
in,
beaten you up for something that you've done in the past.
which was a whole other conversation. However, when we actually, and of course that escalated, okay? It escalated, let's just put it that way.
What did you do as a part of the escalation now?
We ain't going there. Now, I think the next day or the day after we sat down,
day.
the next day, which is a growth
Which is a
point
goal,
for
'cause
us.
it could have gone into 3 days.
And I'm like, you know what? We came up with this team model. We had this already. And I'm like, we have this model that talks about dealing with conflict. Let's actually talk about the conflict using this model. So when we sat down, we were able to hear each other's perspective and really empathize with it, right? And I finally heard that perspective. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And I also understand that you did not trust me with some of the spending before, so you were still harping on that. On the other end, he understood my perspective, and that was, it's not that I don't trust you, I don't trust myself. I want to make sure that the monies that are going on this account, I don't touch, because I could give me a trip, trust me, that money gone. Okay? Give me a course or a coach or a business investment, I can justify me spending that money. And so it was more so a stopgap measure to say, okay, you know what, that money is on the account. If only one is on it and I have easy access to it, I'm going to find a reason to spend it. And so that E was, okay, sitting down, understanding each other's perspective. And I remember when I said that to you, you were like, well, I didn't look at it from that standpoint. I thought he thought I was just doing that because...
You don't trust me, so you want this joint thing. And when you say, you know what, I actually want you on this account because I want some accountability because I don't trust me. Then I'm like, wow, that makes sense. And so, but that came a day later.
It came a day later after the escalation.
And an explosion later.
So we look at the first two letters in TM. So T, talk with purpose. And so for us, that next day was when the purpose talk came. And we literally sat down and we were like, look, we're not going to go another day being mad at each other. Let's talk with purpose. We know what our goal is. We know that we're on the same team. We know that when we come together financially, the fact that we didn't have joint accounts in our marriage doesn't mean that we didn't work together. You know, we have our strategy, have had our strategy of coming together, pooling our resources when we needed to. We just didn't have one account that it came from. And so we knew what our purpose was in that talk. And then we sat down and put ourselves in each other's shoes. And so that is the first two steps in the team framework. Anything you want to add?
So in order to get the next two steps,
Yes.
you'll have to tune in to the
Next episode. So until next time, comment below. Let me know if these two steps have helped you. Let me know if there are any other issues that you feel like you want to manage with your conflict and through this process. And let me know if you, like me and Glenn, you know.
And let us know the length of time it takes to resolve.
Yeah, that's curious.
conflict
That's
and
curious.
who is more willing to resolve. And by talking about it, it helps to deal with the issue and face the reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so until next time.
Grow and